I worked in finance in Dublin for a decade, and every quarter we would celebrate growth. Bigger numbers, bigger profits, bigger GDP. But no one ever asked one simple question. Whose money is that? Ireland's GDP is €562 billion, but most of that does not belong to Ireland. According to the GDP, Ireland is one of the richest countries in the world. So then why do we have a housing crisis, an energy crisis, a healthcare crisis? Which is it? Are we poor or are we rich? GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. It counts production. Ireland creates €560 billion worth of value, but it does not ask who owns that. In 2015, the Irish economy grew 26% in 1 year, but nothing about your life changed. Wages didn't go up 26%. There was no housing miracle, no infrastructure boom. Why? Because that 26% was not real. It was accounting. It was Apple moving their intellectual property to Ireland to pay less tax on it. Last year, an Irish company with 0 employees recorded $315 billion in profit. It paid no corporation tax in Ireland. The profit left Ireland and went to Microsoft Bermuda. Of course it was Microsoft. Yet their profit is counted in our GDP. When I worked in finance in Dublin, every meeting had the same unwritten rule. Do not scare the Americans. Do not question this model. Foreign direct investment is what keeps the lights on. No one ever asked, why are we still scared? In 2024, over €300 billion left Ireland as somebody else's profit. If that is keeping the lights on, why does it leave? There is one sentence that shuts down every conversation in Ireland. If the multinationals leave, we're finished. You've heard it. But look at the numbers. Billions of euro in profit leave Ireland every year. That money is not circulating here. It is not building houses. It is not updating infrastructure. It is not upgrading the grid. It is not keeping the lights on. In fact, these multinationals drain Ireland's infrastructure. They are now using 30% of the available electricity in the country. And Microsoft are building their own dirty power plants in the middle of Grange Hill. So they'll build a dirty incinerator in the middle of a suburban area in Dublin, but they won't offer the government money to help us update the energy grid. Even by old steel baron standards, this is criminal exploitation. And the only reason that they get away with this is because of your colonised mind, thinking that Ireland needs foreign direct investment. For 800 years, the Irish were taught that our survival meant pleasing those with power. And in the 1990s, we replaced London with Silicon Valley. Different accent, same reflex. We just call it foreign direct investment now. But look at the structure. The value is created here by Irish workers, but the ownership sits abroad and the profits leave. In the 1700s, Irish children learned Latin in hedges because formal education was banned. Today, Irish engineers design the software that powers the global economy. In both cases, Irish intellect created value, and in both cases, ownership and power over that value has set elsewhere. The gap between how much value Irish workers are creating and how much of it we actually own is so large that the central bank had to create new categories just to take foreign direct investment out of the map so we can actually see what the fuck's going on here. And it turns out we're not fucking rich at all. We are making other people rich. In 2024, Ireland produced €562 billion worth of profits for somebody. But when you strip out the profits that don't stay here, the GDP is actually only 320 billion. Foreign direct investment brings you the illusion of wealth. But it's an illusion. The value doesn't stay here. The profits go abroad. They sit in offshore bank accounts. Ireland is supposed to be excited that last year we got 1,500 new jobs because of IDA investment. Woohoo! But we're not supposed to talk about the fact that in the same year, 200 billion euros was extracted from the country. That ratio is grotesque. Meanwhile, Ireland has 60,000 construction workers sitting on their arses because the government won't let them build social housing. Now the threat is becoming real. In November 2025, Israel launched a high-tech tax reform initiative. They will start soon to offer reduced rates and capital gain exceptions on tech investments into Israel. The Gaza Great Trust Plan is proposing an economic zone for big tech that is tax-free. And the US is also looking at building a competing tax-free zone for big tech. Meanwhile, Ireland imports 80% of its energy, spending 10 billion a year on fossil fuels. While Ireland spends 10 billion euros to import fossil fuels, we are also wasting 2.1 terawatt hours of electricity every year just because we've nowhere to store it. 2.1 terawatt hours of electricity is enough to power 750,000 plus homes for a whole year. So the wind generates all of that energy and we've nowhere to put it because our government refuses to invest in the grid and instead spends billions to buy fossil fuels. The country is literally throwing wind off the cliffs of Moher and buying gas instead. Unemployment is now at the highest it's been since COVID and rising quickly. Tech layoffs have thumped the country over the last few years, with TikTok, Meta, X, Glassdoor, IBM, Oracle, all laying off staff. The Microsoft Ireland office, that booked 300 billion in revenue last year, has 0 Irish employees. The structural risk of continuing to believe the foreign investment myth is honestly terrifying. IBEC, you are bringing the country to its knees. Please, stop it. Stop inviting them in. For the love of fucking God, stop. Data centers are consuming 25% of the available electricity. Grid capacity is being stolen from housing to give to data centers. If any geopolitical instability, like Trump randomly invading somewhere, makes fossil fuel prices go up, it's Irish households that pay for that. The government has now commissioned emergency gas generators to keep the lights on in the data centres, and Irish households paid for that to the tune of 600 million euros. Now we have unregulated on-site gas burning by Microsoft in the middle of the Dublin suburbs. Grange Castle is now running a fleet of gas generators, which are emitting 16.6 million tonnes of CO2 every year. That is 68% of Ireland's emissions in 2023. Just one company in 1 year has produced more CO2 than the entire country did. IDA clients, so the Americans, employ roughly 300,000 people in a country of 5 million. But even that is a false figure, because once the data centres are up and running, then how many it takes to staff them reduces significantly. So those are all precarious jobs. There are over 80 data centres in Ireland now, and they collectively employ less than 200 people. And even when they do employ you, they are taking you away from the jobs that the society needs you to do. Most IDA clients have only created for Ireland what David Gerber refers to as bullshit jobs. The brilliant Irish intellect, instead of building Ireland up and solving the problems of today, are pushing around a fucking spreadsheet to make fake money for someone else. Now the Exchequer is very worried that corporate tax income could suddenly collapse. It could disappear. It could move to Israel tomorrow. And that might be the best wake-up call Ireland ever gets.